Now, Conor Benn has been provisionally suspended by UKAD, the UK anti-doping authorities, and that was on March the 15th, revealed by Boxing News on Tuesday. Benn issued a response on Twitter stating, "I can't comment on anything to do with UKAD other than to say that I'm in touch with them. Someone at the Boxing Board of Control or UKAD obviously wanted to create a headline, unlike the Khan, that's Amir Khan case, where it was kept quiet for 14 months, but this is nothing new. I remain free to fight outside the UK." Well, we'll see about that. Eddie Hearn has also revealed, Nick, that Conor Benn's team have now shared his 270-page report that went to the World Boxing Council with UKAD. It was initially used as his defense into the WBC's investigation into his positive drugs test for clomiphene. Hearn said he's unaware that Benn has been provisionally suspended by UKAD. I want to say, here's another fine mess we've gotten ourselves into.
Absolutely. For me, this is a small positive. It's a step in the right direction, at least. Conor Benn and his team are dealing with UKAD. The suspension now comes in on March the 15th. That's going to come back and bite him in the butt, though, Gareth, because if he is found guilty of a misdemeanor here, the positive test, there isn't a quantifiable excuse where the whole thing is scrapped, and it's looking increasingly unlikely that will be the case. His date will be backdated to when he was suspended by UKAD, which is March the 15th. Whereas if they started this process back when the fight was prohibited, if you remember the week of the fight at the back end of last year, that was 6 months ago. So he'd already be 6 months since it was banned, because as we know, these things get backdated anyway. So I think they've dropped the ball here, but it's just great to see that finally Conor, Eddie, everybody associated with this on their side has realised that we've got to move this forward. We can't just head off to Saudi Arabia and throw a fight on, or Abu Dhabi and put a fight on against Manny Pacquiao or Kell Brook or even Chris Eubank Jr. because we can't get away with it. Not only with the public demand better, and certainly boxing demand better. The thing is, if UKAD now have suspended them, which they have, then UKAD, who adhere to the WADA code, and other drug testing outfits around the world who adhere to the WADA code will have to adhere to the UKAD ban. So I think what Conor's saying is, I remain free to fight outside the UK is utter nonsense, because even if he were to try to fight, his coaching team, his promoter, his broadcaster would all be hit with serious ramifications by the British Boxing Board of Control. So he's not free to fight outside of the UK. That's not true. But the good thing is, as I say, we're making progress. Hopefully this moves forward. Let's just pray, Gareth, UKAD don't take 14 months to deal with this like they took with Amir Khan.
Yeah, well, they can't. It's been a very cack-handed route that this has gone for Conor Benn. I mean, I don't want to say that he's done the wrong thing, because I think this is the right thing. It's something I've been calling for a long time, to have that 270-page document go before UKAD and have a hearing with their independent committee. It's not the Boxing Board of Control that hears it, it's the independent committee. But like you rightly say, the key aspect of this is that it has serious ramifications for British Boxing Board of Control licence holders, including Benn. Obviously doesn't hold a licence at the moment because he surrendered his licence, but it affects his promoter Eddie Hearn, and it affects his opponent. Now, I wonder why if this is the reason why Chris Eubank Jr. withdrew, as we understand, from this contest in Abu Dhabi on June the 3rd. They threw it out there, and it looks like he's going to fight Liam Smith for a second time, which is a fight I want to see. I'm sure it's a fight you want to see. But weirdly, behind the scenes, there's a confidence on Benn's side that they can push forward. But it remains to be seen whether any foreign sanctioning body is willing to exploit that jurisdictional ruling. Because it will be a massively contentious fight under these circumstances that we now have. It's a very odd scenario. It may be that Benn has finally decided he's going to just have to take the decision that UKAD take for him and just take the ban. in my view. If he gets one.
Exactly. I'm just going to say he maintains that that the excuse that was actually put forward by the WBC and following their investigation into his taking into account his 270-page document, it was the WBC that said, actually, what you've said in your document is that there was an issue with the testing process. That's not true. We're throwing that out. But what we are offering is that your consumption of eggs may have skewed the test. So we're going to pat you on the back and put you back in the rankings and exonerate you. Well, they can't do that. They're not a governing body. They can't exonerate him. He has to have effectively his day in court. He has to have a proper hearing. We need to get to the bottom of how that Osterine got into his system. And as I say, Conor himself said it's got nothing to do with eggs.
Clomiphene. Yeah, Osterine was Amir. I know you're getting them mixed up. No, it's all right. It happens.
Exactly. What a horrific world we're in at the moment, Gareth. Knowing so much about these bodybuilding supplements. It's terrible. Yeah. It's absolutely terrible. But the good thing is the process is moving. Hopefully, the British Boxing Board of Control and Eddie and the broadcaster, The Zone, because the stench is on all of them. They must push UKAD to deal with this swiftly, effectively, thoroughly. Don't get me wrong. Don't rush anything. Thoroughly. But they have to push this to be dealt with as soon as possible. Not just for Conor's sake, because Conor needs to save his penance, if there is one to save, and then be able to rebuild his career. He's not the only boxer that's ever failed a drug test, unfortunately. Certainly one from these British shores. There's many. Dillian Whyte, Tyson Fury. They've all popped hot in the past and faced various suspensions and everything else and backdated bans. Conor's exactly the same. It's the fact they tried to get away with it. He needs to just have his day in court, get to the conclusion, and then move forward with his career.
Yeah, this is the way for him to move forward. Otherwise, it would always have been under a horrible cloud of lightning and thunder that could come down at any time, in my view. And it might be very tough right now, and it's going to be hard for him to maybe accept what they decide. But in a weird way, I really do think that with the WBC saying it could have been due to a surfeit of consumption of eggs, he should have seen that as an opportunity. And I don't mean this to get out, to have that hearing. And, clearly they have found a reason why, even though he didn't want to accept it, but maybe that is the reason. So accept it,
But then Gareth, Conor, from the very beginning, has maintained that he's completely and utterly innocent. So let's play devil's advocate for a moment. What if he is? Yeah. What if it is? And the 270-page document proves that it's because of poor testing standards. What if that is the case? Because it's in the WBC's interests to gloss over that, because it's their clean testing program that's worth tens of millions of dollars to them. So of course they want to try and brush that under the carpet. If this is true, it becomes a completely different conversation. It's no longer about a single individual fighter and his team and what they tried to do. It's about the fact that the WBC's clean boxing program, which you don't get to opt in and out of. If you're going to be ranked by the WBC, you have to pay to be a part of. It's about that being flawed and a flawed process. The problem here is this whole conversation, this whole 270-page document is about one of the failed tests. He failed 2 tests, Gareth. And that's the problem. He's got to prove that the testing procedure not only faltered once, it faltered twice. And that's going to be such a big thing to convince anybody, least of all UKAD and an independent governing body, that hopefully have got no dog in the fight. They just want the truth. And that's what boxing needs, the truth to come out.
And, of course, they're operating under strict liability. So...
Correct.
So,
even if it is eggs, he's got a 2-year ban hanging over his head.
Unless they absolutely believe that it's A, unintentional, that B, it's not his fault, and C, they just see something else there that they, as you say, the big problem for him is if it's a 2-year ban and they've just provisionally, I don't know whether they will go back to when he surrendered his license,
they have to do it from the moment that UKAD suspends you, like with Amir Khan. It was all based around that April date, not when he failed the test. When they notified him, he was suspended due to an investigation. So this is exactly the same case. It will be backdated to March the 15th, as I say. He'll have lost 6 months in the process.
He may end up ruining the route that's been taken here and the amount of money spent on lawyers and all of those kind of things. Not a happy situation.